Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the College Esports Insider podcast. We got the great Tom here, esports
Very
professor from
kind.
Harrisburg. Love having you. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, mate. Yeah, super excited.
Yeah, excited to have you. How's the start to your year been as you're getting started? I don't know. Are you guys first or second weekend?
We just finished. We just finished. This is the end of our first week. I was about to say second week, which goes to show how it's felt. It's been really good though. I love getting the students back. And I always teach a freshman class every year, so I get new students in, and I really love that first lesson when you're sat down with them and just like talking about what they really enjoy doing in the space. And it's great too because you can be like, oh, you like broadcasting, do you? Perfect. We need someone to cover that. So like you can come and talk to me and we can get you set up on like our OBS and things like that. And you can find their new talents, which is really fun. So it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. How's the start of the year been for you?
It's been great, a little busy. We had staff meeting, like our first staff meeting on Tuesday, and then
Mm-hmm.
getting home from that, my throat was feeling a little sore, and next thing I know, I woke up with a cold on Wednesday. So I've been both
Yeah.
battling a cold, and then I'm also doing my master's at Converse, so had first week of classes myself
Damn.
this week. So very busy times. I have a sponsor meeting right after we get done with this. It's
Yeah, no,
always a good
that's
time at
busy.
Converse, though. I love staying
Yeah,
busy. That's my thing. I always
yeah,
love grinding out something. So,
yeah. That's awesome.
yeah.
I love the work you guys do down there. It's always a good time at Converse.
Katie has built an incredible program, and I'm just happy to be along for the ride. That's always what I say. But yeah, so just to get started a little bit, tell us a little bit about your background. Like I don't,
Mhm.
I know that you're a professor, but like I don't really know, like how did you come up with esports? How
Mhm.
you're a professor, like how tell me all about it. I'm very curious to know.
Yeah, so like you say, I'm known for being a professor now, but I've been in the space, funny enough, for like almost 4 or 5 years, collegiate esports wise now. Started with a company called Philly Esports. Didn't found them, but I kind of joined them on when I was doing my master's degree over here. I've always been a huge fan of esports, and I always wanted to make games into esports. I was like, I want to make a competitive game. So my undergrad was in game design. And when I quickly figured out I couldn't like code very well, and there was better 3D artists than me, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll do the presentation stuff. I'll do the marketing plans. I'll do like the business plans for the games. And I slowly realized that like, oh, one huge side of marketing for games is like esports, proper esports, but like building things, um, not just to play games, but like to play competitively, which was absolutely incredible to me. So I'd always been a huge fan of esports from a really young age. I sat and used to watch the like first days of the LEC. Back when like Riot used to just have curtains for like separators between the two stages that was split, and I was a huge CLG EU fan. So I'd really been there for kind of like the grubby little start that League of Legends had, and then I was lucky enough to kind of watch the other scenes really grow from a backseat in the UK, like the Rocket League scene. Funny enough, there's a FIFA scene back home, so I was involved in
Yeah.
that as well. Used to love playing FIFA as competitively as I could. And then when I got to kind of graduating, I worked a general business job, came over here for my master's degree, and really almost by accident ended up interning for an esports company out here, which was Philly Esports. So that's kind of how I got here to this position. Once I hit Philly Esports, we were starting a really small collegiate league in the PA area, and that was really like putting like fire to tinder. I absolutely loved working in collegiate esports. I was like, oh my god, these are kids that can go to school for gaming. It's like what I would have dreamt of for forever. I always used to tell my friends, and it's funny. I've got a really good mate of mine, and we always used to want to play competitive league together. And now he works for Riot. He's a dev for Riot, and I teach in collegiate esports. So we always say it's funny how we like ended up still working in that field. Shout out Dom. But yeah, no. And then I was picked once I graduated, pretty much plucked straight from college by CSL, which turned into Playfly, which turned into A-Star League. Worked with them on the partners and sponsorship side of things, which was really, really fun. Learned a lot. Joined when really just before this like esports winter hit. So I got to see some really cool activations go off and some really cool brands get involved with the space. And then Harrisburg just kind of asked me if I'd be interested in teaching part-time, and it turned to full-time. So it really went from there. And I adore teaching. It's like it's the career within esports I always kind of never knew I needed, but it's taught me so much more than being in industry ever has.
Mhm. That's great to hear. So I do have a question for you, kind of a fun one here to kind of
Yeah,
take us.
for it.
So on your Twitter bio, you say you hold the
Yeah.
world record for any percent for explaining
Yeah.
esports to a parent. Tom, I don't know anything about esports. Give me the pitch right now.
Competitive video gaming. That's it. Competitive video gaming against other people online. That is what I tell people every time. And then I see the parent go, okay, interesting. This kind of makes sense. And then I go, yeah, no, imagine your high school team has a basketball team, but it's a game and you play it online. And then it starts to click. So that's been the quickest way I've ever found to tell parents, because it's brilliant, right? You have like high schools
Nope.
visit, and the parents are with them, and they go, "So explain this esports. I don't like. I know he games, but I don't really know what he does. Like, they play a lot of Fortnite. Like, what is it?" And I'm like, "Okay, competitive video gaming online. That's as simple as it gets."
Right. And so, how is it to teach esports? Like, I don't know if it's any different, or and I'm sure that you can maybe have some insight to it. But Harrisburg is a STEM school primarily,
Hmm.
right? So I think that's a little bit different from some of the other esports professors that I've talked to. When I talk to like Adamantor or like
Hmm.
Nuke as well, where they're kind of at like state schools, right? Is it? Do you think it's any different from there, or do you think you kind of get to gear it more towards kind of that STEM education that you guys offer in Harrisburg?
Yeah, I think we definitely get to be more technical with it. Like we probably get a higher percentage, I assume, of like comp sci students that are interested in esports and want to get in esports. But Harrisburg is a relatively small school. So I think like the benefits of having like just STEM students probably are massively outweighed by like just having a larger student base at a bigger school anyway. But I think the way I've found best to teach esports is to really look at the skills that esports require that isn't just playing games, right? If teaching esports, but the physical playing of the game is coaching, which I think a lot of people sometimes get confused as like, oh, you're teaching them to play games. It's like, well, no, I'm not a coach. I'm not teaching them how to play Rocket League. What I'm teaching is the essential kind of learnings within esports. So it's like I always tell people I teach really esports business management. So I look at one of my classes I've got right now is brands and trends, right? How do esports brands start? How do esports brands build themselves? But then also how do the trends in this space also grow? As we found out, like mobile gaming is a huge trend, right? How has that trend impacted the market? How have the brands built around those trends? Tribe Gaming is a great example, right? That's one of the best mobile gaming brands out there. And when you think mobile gaming, you think them, right? That's how a brand has analyzed themselves and put themselves with a market. And that's the same that any market does, right? If you look at, I used to work in facilities management, where you have a company like Compass Group that does hotel facilities. That they're putting themselves in a specific trend and a specific market. It's the same practice across esports, and then also really connecting businesses just to esports in general, I think, is something I really love doing. So like bringing people in, especially to look at interns with our students, is always so much fun. Because yeah, I love it when I give them interns and they're like, these kids are really good, and I'm like, yeah, no, they're like broadcasting geniuses and they can come up with amazing business plans. It's like their heads are just in gaming, so it's like you have to think in that same fashion. It's just yeah, it's a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoy it.
Have you ever gotten students who come in thinking that they're going to get to like learn how to play a game, and then that's not what they get at all?
No, but it's funny the amount of students who are like ask if I'm going to look at highlights in class, and I'm like, yeah, if we when we do like when we analyze people, I'll show you their highlights. But it's like I'm not just going to sit and look at highlight reels. When it's like if there's a world champions on or like a big LAN, normally we'll talk about it to start the class, and yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm always there is a couple sessions I do where I bring PCs in and we set up a mini LAN. So yeah, they do get to play sometimes.
That's always fun though. And that's I feel like that's very dynamic, and I think that's one of the things that I love about esports in general is you can really get to get dynamic in the way that you show it to students, and the way that you get them in there, and the experience that they get, they always get to get a little bit of everything through
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, it's even as like when we do events, I really love teaching the kids how to tape down wires because it's a really, really good skill to have in like anything you do in the future, right? If you're in an office in the future and you get something new and you can tape down the wire better than anyone else, that's gonna look really good for you. So it's like the importance of taping wires down. And like for Hugh we've got coming up, like when they're doing all the cable management, making sure that they're not placing it by their feet so kids can kick them out or students can kick them out is also like, really, really important to teach the students. And I really love those kind of real world examples, it's just a lot of fun.
The one that always got me working events was wrapping up wires, like getting, especially like the large spools of wires, learning how to properly wrap those up so that they're not getting kinks or anything like that. Like
Hmm.
that always got me because I never learned how to do it properly. I think the last event that I got to work was with ESL Face It, and that was
Hmm.
terrible. They're all judging me, like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, this is not my job. I'm here to like engineer. I'm not here to do this."
Yeah, I love it. I love telling the students they have to keep all of the manuals too when they unbox things. I'm like, no, 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 you can't throw those away. You have to keep them. They're going to stay with the boxes.
That's always fun. So going through for this year, right? What are some of the
Hmm.
courses that you're teaching? Tell us, something about them, and then like, what are you excited about? What are you not excited about?
Yeah, so I have the trends and brands
Mm,
class, which I built over the summer, which I'm really excited about because it's a lot of analysis and it's a lot of listening to the industry. So teaching the students how to actually not just do like research, but because there's the section of research which is looking at scholarly articles and looking at the proper sources and finding the information, but there's also the um, I almost call it sometimes like casual, like anecdotal research, which is like looking up
mm,
company culture, right? Looking up what employees are saying on LinkedIn, trying to find their finance reports, trying to find out more that's like can tell you about a company rather than just reading articles, which is I'm not trying to discredit that because of course I'm a professor and
of
that's
course.
the basis of so much. Yeah, but it's like it's I think in esports specifically, it's like if you can be the person that finds the news first and finds that information first, you can really act upon it. And that's something I'm really trying to teach the students, which is why I'm so active on socials all the time because I'm like, I have to prove the point.
Yep.
And then of course, I have my freshman class, which is Intro to Esports, which is so much fun to teach. I love it because I think that most of the students will know everything about esports, but then there's always like two kids that email me at the end of the year and they were like, I didn't even know there was a thing called the LCS, or like, I didn't know there was a thing called the RLCS, or I didn't know Dota 2 had competitive esports. And it's like, I love expanding the minds because it can really show them how big esports is because I feel like sometimes kids come in thinking it's quite narrow, like, oh, it's only these specific games. And it's like, well, no, it's been going on since early 2000s properly,
Mhm.
and it's massive. And then I have my internships and project students, which is always a lot of fun, right? Getting them out into the industry, working with people, and then also working on projects is so fun because I like to be big and just be as dramatic as we can when building something. So like
Mm.
when a student comes to me and they're like, "Oh, I want to build like this Netflix for esports," I'm like, "Okay, perfect. Let's go crazy. Like, how can we design it? How can we build it? And how can we make this a really, really fun project rather than trying to say like, oh, you should think about something you can actually do. It's like, no, let's go crazy and let's really, really explore. So yeah, no, I have a really fun semester coming up.
That does sound fun. So, you touched a little bit about the brands class that you're teaching.
Hmm.
As far as like intro to esports, right? So you're kind
Yeah.
of showing people the ins and out, the history of it, maybe. I imagine that's probably also where you get to kind of get to do your LAN mock
Hmm.
up, so to speak.
Hmm.
Um, what else do students get? Like, you talked a little bit about that research part of it. And I think that's really important because, like, even myself right now, I'm going through my master's. I'm about to start
Hmm.
my thesis here. I'm having such
Hmm.
a hard time finding like good scholarly articles about esports leadership because it's what I'm basing my
Yeah.
thesis off of.
Yeah.
What are some things like how do you get your students to really properly research esports? How does that work out for you?
Yeah, so you're correct. There's not a lot, right? And one of the big things is whenever we do sessions where I just did a session on Wednesday where we were going through Google Scholar, and we were talking about it that like if you find an esports article written in 2009, there's a chance that like none of that's going to be relevant. None of it's going to be relevant anymore. You need something written from like 2016 onwards. And most of those ones are still in like review. So yeah, it's tough, right? It's tough. So the best thing I always tell the students is if you really can't find something in esports, find something that is adjacent to it. So like sports psychology is great. Talking about how, you know, it's the same as like teams and players are the same across disciplines, right? Really, then you can look at the player, whether they play Valorant or whether they play football, as just purely the athlete. The athlete is the machine. And sports psychology has been great to find examples, especially with leadership, or even doing the first-hand research. So like maybe trying to sit down with the captain of the Valorant team and talking to them about leadership and trying to figure out how they find examples of leaders within the space. And also doing that first-hand research yourself, like just reaching out to pro players and reaching out to leaders in the space and doing those like you're doing right now, you know, having those conversations and sitting down and getting to ask some questions and record that information. Because as I learned through my grad program, like that is still very valid research. That is research that you are doing and you can contribute, because when you come to publish your paper, people can then come to quote that first-hand research, right? So if you can't find it, either sports psychology is great or be the first to create it is always the things I say.
Mhm. And then going towards internships, right? How do you structure? You know, do you companies reach out to Harrisburg asking for students? Do you guys do the reaching out? How does that work out? Because I think that's something that a lot of,
Yeah.
even just like from the academic and even the non-academic side, when we talk about programs,
Mm-hmm.
especially those in like big state schools, that's something that they're looking to add onto their programs with trying to find internships for students, and a lot of programs
Yeah.
struggle with that.
Yeah, no, and it's also what makes up an internship, right? Because we know in this space there's so many students that sign up for an internship and then they're working 80 hours a week and they Google it and they're like, oh, that was actually illegal. I shouldn't have been doing
Mm-hmm.
any of that. So it's also finding people that are going to treat them ethically and legally. We, being straight up, I've found it hard to like wait for companies to come to me. I've always gone out to people and reached out to people and said, hey, you know, almost being their manager or their agent and saying, "Hey, I got a brilliant worker for you guys. You know, you can teach them a bunch. You can, you know, really being almost like a car salesman to people that I can trust. So, for example, like do a lot of work with CFGC. Well, co-founder with the
Yeah, of course.
Jason is a great guy. Albie's a great guy. You know, the entire team's amazing. So, like, I have a student interview this afternoon where I'm going to be calling them up and saying, "Hey, look, we've got a student for you. I'll cover the paperwork. He really needs some like TOing experience, and I can trust them to put them in the place." Same with Sen. You know, I've got other students where they want to do graphics, so I reach out to the people that I know need support with graphics, and I can really handle the paperwork from my end, because I feel like a lot of people also think it has to be, not that it's not super official, but it has to be, you know, this whole ceremony of pomp and circumstance. But really, it is just, let's get the student in working, and we need to fill out some paperwork and, you know, get them sorted with records and registration. But that's really as far as it goes. It's like reaching out myself, or if I, you know, Antor's Discord's great because it posts a lot of stuff in there too. So
Yeah.
I do share and retweet a lot. Like if I see things from socials, I'll just go and share it in the Discord. Like I always find it really important that students like make like a program Discord, because we have esports management, but we have the club, but we need like a place for academic resources. So we created one for purely just the students of the esports management degree, and that's really where I share a lot of like internship related stuff. I'll just post it straight in there.
Mm-hmm. On the topic of degrees, let's get a
Yeah.
little spicy here. So, if you remember a couple months ago, there was a discourse of
Mm-hmm.
are esports degrees valuable? Are they not valuable? I mean, from your take as a professor of esports, like, what do you think? Is an esports education valuable to someone today? I saw a lot of like arguments, and even I'll tell you my personal take of it. I think it's valuable. Um, to the future. I don't know that it's necessarily valuable to the present, but
Yeah.
I think people are still able to get those transferable skills to get it from esports to non-esports jobs, from non-esports to esports jobs. So I think no matter what, there's some value for everybody, and that's a way to engage a student in a way that you normally wouldn't, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh no, you're great. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I I agree with the point that there are esports degrees out now that do feel a little scammy because they promise way too much. But I feel like degrees that position themselves as this is your, because for example, I have a student, I won't say his name obviously, but he is a 34-year-old guy, right? Post-war veteran, come back. He played COD all his life. Never thought he'd go to college because he didn't know enough to get into game design, and he didn't have the grades to get into comp sci. And esports is something that he loves. He loves Cloud9. So he comes into this degree, and he is one of the top students. And what he is genuinely getting is a chance to channel his passion for something into an education. And I think to turn around and tell people that just because you're doing that, it's invalid is very obtuse. I think it's ignorant. I don't think you would go and tell a vet that you're taking an animal degree. It's stupid because there's doctor degrees still there. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, but I want to specialize in animal care, so I'm going to do it. I want to specialize. I mean, it's like marine biology, right? There's in every sub study there becomes specializations, and I think this is just what a specialization faces as it's being founded. Is like people go, well, we don't need esports. We have sports management, or we have sports psychology. It's like, okay, but people want to study esports. People want to research esports. Like you, for example, in your master's degree, you're basing your thesis in esports leadership. Like
Yep.
people want to build out the future of academics within esports. And I think for other people to sit down and go, well, we don't need that. We already have other degrees is silly. But then, I do think people that turn around and they're like, yeah, come to my esports degree. We're going to teach you everything you need to know to stay in esports and make it an amazing, successful team and win a world championship is crap. I don't know anyone really doing that. But I think if it started to, that'd be bad because there's no one knows the formula for esports right now. We're all just guessing.
It's weird because I always get these like Instagram ads that are like, get your esports degree and be the best gamer. And I always get Instagram ads off it, but I can never pin it down to who it's coming from.
Yeah, I've seen banner ads that's like, get your master's degree in esports or like PhDs in esports. And it's like, on the surface, people probably think it's scammy. But when you do look at like schools, as what I've learned, is so much about research and conducting research and analyzing the market that it's like I feel like esports degrees are really needed to keep it competitive.
Right.
Plus, it's a good place for employment.
It's great place for employment. I mean, I've seen so many people get like, I know that and I'm from the Carolinas. That's where I've been doing my college. But one of the Carolina schools here is offering a minor in esports, and I remember that's been a hot topic just within the state because first one to ever do it, they're bringing in lecturers from the industry that may have a master's or a PhD in sports marketing or sports management, something or another, and I know that has always been a pretty hot topic as to whether they're doing it right or doing it not. But what I think is kind of beautiful is the fact that they're like engaging students in a way that normally they wouldn't have been engaged in to go out and pursue this thing adjacent to their current education in business management, some computer science. I think that's really beautiful, and I think that's something that I wish was replicated more.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I used to go to a coastal school back home and we had surfing degrees, right? Like it's because we have a lot of surf in South England. So it's it's something that we have as like a local regional area. And I always thought that was really, really interesting. So like esports is that as well.
What have you noticed actually let me ask this. Do you know what the differences are between college esports over in the UK compared to the North America? Like, have you looked into that? What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest difference is the culture completely. So there is there is competitive athletics in the UK, but it's not even on a high school scale or even like a pee-wee league scale in comparison, right? It's unorganized. There's and this is for general athletics. At least when you play, it's not, there's not the money involved. It's mostly charities that will run like a student rugby league or a student football league, and you certainly don't get a scholarship to play for the team. Esports is getting different. It's definitely still like club run. You're not going to get, I don't think, necessarily an esports director that shows up to recruit players to win, because I just don't think the structure's there, right? There's still competitive esports, but it's really kind of just, at least from my observations, it feels like it's really not anywhere near the scale it is. European wise, it's getting bigger. We obviously have like Rocket League with Uni Rocketeers that just did their championships, and you have European teams playing in it. But yeah, it's certainly not on the level of, hey, come play for our school, you'll get an education, you can play. Which is why I think now we're seeing a bunch of European players being recruited over, is these schools are realizing, hey, there's like zero competition to go and poach European players. Like, they're going to stay in their local school and not get paid to go and build student debt and, not be able to practice during school and have your own arena space. No, they're going to want to come over to an American school and have that kind of like star-studded life, right? Where they come over and they're the star player for this team, or they're on the star player for this team. So yeah, it's different. It's different. It's quieter, and it will be. It won't grow until the money gets there, or the college support gets there.
I met some of the students from University of Warwick years ago, and like they're an impressive bunch of people, and what they're doing out there is amazing. But as far as schools go out there, I think that's the only one that I've really ever heard doing it to that scale or even bigger than that.
Yeah, and that is, and I don't fully know how Warwick is, but that is an example of like, yeah, they just got a big club, right? They have students that go to that school that are good at esports. They've not built the program to like win championships or anything. Right. It's just, this is something we do, and we want to be like the biggest club on campus.
And then going through, I mean, do you touch on that like classes? The differences between like Americas down to like Asia, because I think that's something that's really neat. Is just the way that esports culture even just differs from the different like territories or continents, so to speak. Yeah,
we do cover regional differences, but it really only ever is on the pro scene. It's not on the collegiate scene as much. I mean, I do cover the international scene of collegiate, because there are still the university championships and there are still colleges across the world that play competitively. But unlike kind of like the pro esports scene, where America isn't necessarily the home and really the lifeblood of the scene, collegiate esports is. There will be nothing like America, because I mean, it's like trying to run college football, right? Trying to run college basketball, trying to run college hockey. There just isn't the infrastructure to support it. For America, it's just adding another sport, right? It's adding another sport onto the already existing athletic structure. Back home, you still have to build the athletic structure, right? There isn't any athletic directors, as far as I know, unless things have changed dramatically and they have scholarships in like the last 2 years. But none of my friends have told me anything.
Yep. You get to go back home often?
Yeah, I went home, had a family wedding July last year. So it's been about a year since I've been back. Hopefully going to head back at Christmas for a week or two. But yeah, no, I moved here right as COVID hit. So I got locked in and out of the country on multiple occasions.
Yo, I made my move down to Charlotte when what was it, like right in the middle of the pandemic, fall 2020. Did not go back to see my parents up in Maryland for Lord knows how long.
What part of Maryland?
Southern Maryland, right outside of like DC. We always had Washington DC in our backyard, about like 20-30 minutes away. So that was always a fun time.
I used to live on the eastern shore of Maryland for a bit. Loved it. Loved Maryland. I love Maryland.
Shore. Yeah.
I used to live in I used to live in Easton, if you know the Eastern Shore very well. So
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, grew up Waldorf, kind of that area, if you know where that is.
Yeah. Damn, small world.
That's crazy. That's the first person I ever met that had anything to do with Maryland and esports.
I love telling people that I have intricate knowledge of like rural Maryland on the Eastern Shore. Yeah, no, I used to yeah, eating crabs.
I
It's
go back
amazing.
every summer just for the crabs. Like I cannot. I always tell my
Yeah,
parents, June, July, I'm up there for like a week or two.
yeah, no, dude, it's the same. Like the summer comes and suddenly you want crabs, beer, and hush puppies.
That's the culture up there. Oh, that's
Yeah,
crazy. No,
I
the
love it.
only
That's
like
awesome.
people that I know that are like in Maryland that have to do anything to do with esports are like Sergio, who's at UMD, and then
Hmm.
Taryn Morgan, who's at Morgan State. So like,
Hmm.
never met people, or like, and there's like,
That's hilarious.
that was one of my gripes always growing up there is that there was no esports going on in Maryland at all
Yeah,
growing up.
yeah, yeah. I did my master's degree in Baltimore, and I remember being on campus, and I was like, "Do you guys do esports yet?" And they're like, "No, not really. We know of it, but we don't really do it yet."
There was like no events. I think we had like a Call of Duty event in like 2015, 2016 in
Hmm.
DC. And that's about as far as we got until like Washington Justice. But then
Hmm.
they didn't even really do that much for the public, besides just kind
No,
of
yeah,
being
it's all
stationed
like,
there.
yeah, yeah. That's so funny.
You know? So going forward towards going back actually towards esports education. Last
Hmm.
thing I'm gonna ask you, do you have any hot takes about esports education that you wish to communicate? Anything you want to touch on there?
Esports education hot takes. I feel like we have to train more politer students, or politer students, I guess in is the
Hmm.
correct English. Not in the sense of like everyone's really badly behaved, but like emails need to be better. People showing up for meetings on time need to be better. It's like, I think I said it the other day, but it's like the amount of people, or not the amount of people, it doesn't happen crazy amounts of times, but like I'll get, hey, sorry, I couldn't make it today, and I see like League of Legends in session 4 hours 51 minutes. I'm like, oh, I know it's okay. Like we're all gamers, but so I think sometimes people need to remember this. Like we have to be a bit businessy, a little bit well behaved sometimes, a little bit
Every
proper, as we'd say.
We found out last year at Converse real quickly that students don't know how to properly address an email.
No,
So we we had to we brought in our director of human resources to do a speech on communication and talk about professional communication and how that looks both written but also like spoken, right?
that's brilliant. I
And
love that. I love
long story short, we're bringing her back in 2 weeks to do that again.
that. I might have to steal that. That's brilliant. That's awesome. That's a genius idea.
Yep. So that's been my thing this year is how can I further get these students to become proper professionals? And so we have like one event a month dedicated towards professional development of our students now because last year, the amount of people that I had hitting me up like, hey, can you check out my resume? How do I address this email? How do I reach out to this person?
Yeah, no, it's the same. It's like I feel like we need to realize that we're all gamers. We all have that like stuff we had to learn, and our little gamers need that help too. So it's all the time.
Yeah, but love that. What are you looking forward towards like future trends when you talk about like esports education? I mean, high schools are getting involved in it now, um, to a smaller scale, I think. But I've seen high schools being like posting jobs now for like teachers, not just coaches, but actually hiring teachers for
Mm,
this. Um,
yeah,
I almost got hired on as a high school teacher a year ago, to teach high school esports. So that's something that like I can personally say. But are you noticing anything of like, as schools are as schools are getting involved into offering minors and majors and certificates? Is there anything that you're looking forward to in that regard?
yeah. I'm really looking forward to the general awareness of esports going up. Which is, it sounds kind of obvious, but like as more and more kids get involved with it that are younger at the high school and middle school age, that means more parents are going to know about it, which means more parents are going to start supporting it, which means that there's less of a educational barrier when they get to us at college, which is going to be amazing, right? We're going to get people that, maybe they get to college and they've already got 3 or 4 years of messing around on OBS because they've been able to do it for their high school team. And at home, their parent has bought them a Stream Deck setup and they're supporting it because they know that it's not just gaming, it's building an entire professional kit that is built around an industry, right? I cannot remember his name. I know it's Twin Shiny is his handle, but he's the guy that is the Fox media producer. I think it's Arizona. I can't remember exactly where it is. If he's listening, he'll tell me. But he's a great example of a guy that is a caster and has then gone into um, what you could say is like a broadcast adjacent industry, which is news producing. And that's where we can create those talents much earlier. Which is ironic to say because everyone's very young in this industry already, but that's because they've fallen into it, right? It's because they were like, oh, I like esports and now I'm the president and I have to worry about this thing.
Yep.
But we can start having kids that get into school that are like, I really want to lead the esports club. And I really have ideas for building our college team better. And maybe that they get to their college teams and they're more built out too, which is great. They've got spaces for like 6 or 7 grad assistants rather than like you, I guess, one grad assistant that's like trying to do everything they can.
we have me, and then we have I'm not even technically grad assistant. I'm just a student staff. Ashley's our grad assistant.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ashley's over there like grinding out the graphics and the social medias, and oh man, I feel for her sometimes.
Yeah, but that's exactly the point, right? Is like we'll have more graphic designers that come to college. We'll have more video editors that come to college. We'll have more people that know how to be talent managers that come to college because it'll start being built out on the high school level more. Plus, I love seeing more high school students come into college, right? And they come into the facility and they're all bushy and wide-eyed because they think this is like the best thing they've ever seen in their life. And I'm like, well, this one's a couple of years old. Wait till you see some other like even bigger facilities, right? Where you get to go into a huge land center for the first time. Like it's going to absolutely blow your mind. Definitely that.
Well, yeah. You nailed it right on. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. I mean, it was enlightening for me. I hope it's a way for other people as well to get your perspective on a lot of these things and kind of grow that. Do you have anything that you want to shout out? Where can people find you?
Social is the best place, which is I'm at Kyber TS on pretty much everything. My LinkedIn is back finally. Got it unhacked, which was amazing. I'm still going to leave my skills in Chinese because I just think that will really throw some people off and make me a little bit more interesting. But yeah, socials or Discord, it's at Kyber TS. I'm always happy to speak to people. I think my camera froze. It's back. There we go.
There we go. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you. Make sure you guys go find Tom. Go say hi. Super amazing person. Glad to have you on.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, everybody. Have a good one.
See you later.